Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel here today. Today we're going to be watching some more Mushishi. Unsure how many episodes yet, but we'll say very excited to be continuing off of our strong start in episode 1. So yeah, just peeking behind the curtain here. It's pretty late this week that I'm getting to Mushishi. I didn't expect Takopi to run as long as it has, and I've woken up a little bit worse for wear today, so potentially not. We're going to see how 2 goes. If 2 is a big whole bunch of nothing, potentially we do 2 and 3. If it's clearly leading on and it's going to be like an arc, potentially we do 2 and 3. But again, I kind of want to get out of here just, with my head above water for next week. And now with the expectation of what Takopi actually is and how long those episodes are going to be and how long those sessions are going to be, then yeah, we can adjust accordingly and plan a little bit better next week. If anything, this is going to be in grand contrast to Takopi, because Takopi stresses me out, and Sayonara Zetsubou Sensei stresses me out as well, so hopefully we're getting here and we're going to be a little bit more calm about things. First things first, YouTube comments from last week from my patrons. I have a Patreon. You can comment on it if you're on the Patreon and tell me things about the show. I would like that. Starting here with a couple of shorter comments before leading into Iroyuru's longer comment up here. First up we have Sal, Atmosphere the Anime, Ginkgo's cigarette thingy becoming a Mushishi, or the reveal that it is a Mushishi is a good touch. Yeah, obviously keen to see where that goes in the future. What's his kind of, power over Mushishi? Can he control them? Is this a special case? What's his deal? Where's he come from? All these larger scale questions that hopefully we get some touches on as we continue. But yeah, so far he's cool. I would say effortlessly so. So that's pretty nice. Next comment here from Gus N. The way I feel when I smell petrichor, this anime feels like that, which prompted me to look up what petrichor even is. Well, I mean, I know AI overview isn't fantastic, obviously, but like, it's the smell when rain falls on dry. It's the smell of rain, basically, which I think is apt. I feel like that's a very relaxing kind of smell. It's very natural, earthy, new life, all these kind of themes of the show coming through. I think that's an evocative metaphor. I like that very much so. And last here we have Iroyuru, not matching the energy of the show at all, with a fucking let's fucking go. Not that kind of show. It's more like finally Mushishi, like that kind of vibe, I guess. Now I'm pretty strong on this in general. I don't think that sound work in a lot of shows gets the appreciation it deserves, and I'm a living example of that. I too think the sound work last episode was fantastic, and I didn't talk about it basically at all. Like the mix of everything and the way it sounds, even the way the voices sounded in the mix as well. They sounded very close to the mic. It made it feel like I'm right there, like, with them. Like, I can hear the kind of lower tones in the voice there. The deliberate pace of the show, that's coming into it as well. That is sound direction. The ambience of the forest, all the rustling leaves. It's just, it's knocking that stuff out of the park. Yeah, I would agree. Striking this balance very beautifully between, like, expertly paced. Like, nothing's wasted, but we're also taking our time. Like, it just feels natural for the show we're trying to tell. Now, here's the thing. I was inclined to bring up Monogatari, but I feel like that comparison is kind of surface level. Because, again, Monogatari is about, Monogatari is about a lot of things, but it's kind of about spirits, kind of. And, finding out what goes on with them and solving people's problems and that kind of thing. Very, in touch with nature and spiritualism and that kind of side of it, but it's also a Shaft show with Nisuo Sin dialogue that stresses me out. It stresses me out so very much trying to understand what's even going on sometimes. Even like the comedy scenes, like I wouldn't say it's a show that is paced in the same way at all as Mushishi. Just, yeah, makes me feel very different watching it. But again, it's not dissimilar either, I wouldn't say either. Like, it could almost be seen as a inspiration in some parts, you would say. Yeah, I think bringing up Oshino Meme as the character most analogous there to this kind of show is probably wise. Probably the chillest character in Monogatari, you would say. Yeah, Ginkgo's great. Very likable right off the bat. Intriguing. And the episodic story itself also had some great character moments and a nice little story as well. I mean, obviously we're sticking with this guy. He's clearly way more interesting, but yeah, the little story, it was no slouch either. I liked it. And yeah, with a little bit of extra knowledge here, mostly an episodic show, but there will be overarching story stuff happening maybe smaller arcs, self-contained every now and again as well. We're going to see, and I guess this is our lead in to what I'll be talking about next, which is, I guess, the general expectation of what to find out of episode 2. I'm going to imagine that we're just going to set kind of, I don't know, what's the word? Like the next kind of stanza in the poem, right? You read one line in a poem, right? And you don't really get the vibe of what the poem's really going for yet. Once you read that second line, once you read a little bit further, you understand what the poem's trying to do a little bit more, the structure there within. It's going to be very similar here. We're going to figure out, again, we've been told it's episodic, but in what ways? Are we going to continue some concepts, overarching story stuff? Is it going to feel very similar? Is there going to be more characters than just like 2? Is it going to be like a larger town or something that we need to take care of? That could be fun. I don't know. Only really one way to find out. I even forget the name of the episode, but I'll find out here in a second, obviously. And yeah, we'll jump in after I thank the Patreon. Again, Patreon's up there ready to go if you're keen to jump on the Mushishi train. $6 a month gets you everything 1 week early. If you're a big Takopi guy, if you're a big Sayonara Zetsubou Sensei guy, they're also there as well. Many people have done this, up to and including Mickey Babbers AF, AJ, Bananarama Hamadama-sama, BD422, Capella, Choba Copley, Dapper Dwarf, Ed, Fancy Question Mark, Fleur Nightingale, Fruit, Gloriana Tenebrae, Glyke, Greybeard, Gus N, Hans Peter, Hibiki Tachibana, Ika, Iwayuru, Yako Yavanen, Jami Boo, Joran, Kosogtha, Clem, Nosta, Cod Begemot, Lick H, Lou, Marco-san, Miru, Mistake L. Chen, Molly Weinberger, Mr. Maniacs, Aussie, Parnick, Pencil Sharp 333, Ron Lad B&K, St. Lily, Sal, Sam1373, Skeleton, Tentacle Member, Waifu Overdose, Without a Net, Yuki Ali, Akomensa, Binshi, Kelvin, Voodoo Chili, Aidan O'Brien, Guanal, and Zach. Thank you to everybody for giving me money. I enjoy the money. General expectations, it's episodic. I don't really need to set many up. Ginkgo is on his way to find whatever's next. And keeping in mind concepts like Mushi Banquets, Corky, a few other things here and there. Without any further ado, let's jump into episode 2 of Mushishi. Very, very cool. Rightio, I have episode 2 of Mushishi up there ready to go. 23 minutes and 43 seconds on this one, so sync up accordingly with your own copy. I had the psych version with the... It starts with a T again, subs. Hang on, let me read them out. TLACATLC6 subtitles. Very cool. Either way, there's a picture-in-picture version in the description below for your viewing pleasure. Let's give this thing a 3, 2, 1. Radio, 3, 2, 1, go. Straight into that opening again, of course. I feel like I need another cup of coffee or something. Just something to sip on while I kind of meditate here. Did we ever figure out what the second person in this kind of song's meant to be? Because it's almost giving, like, worship music a little bit. Like, second person, there could easily be God. I think it's purposefully left a little bit obscure. It could be whatever that intangible thing that everybody's looking for is, maybe. I like the lyrics a lot, I think. They make me think. Indeed. I was wondering if we were going to keep this. Moosh. The moosh. Very pretty, still, obviously. I'm recording, which is also good. Very similar setup thus far. Kid in a house. That was very clever too. Shutting myself away. Sue. Hibiki? Maybe. The light of the eyelids. Well, that kid had a blindfold on. What's the disease? What's in there? Oh, I have a mushi in my eyes. Okay. Hence the blindfold, hence the isolation. Well, yeah, it's, too much of a hassle. Just abandon them. I mean, I know a guy that could come and have a look. Double eyelid? I don't even know how to close my first eyelid. Interesting. Oh, audio's great too. This is like a really specific feeling that I can't wait to elaborate on. Because if I close my eyes, I don't really want to because I'm reacting, but you can kind of still see stuff. And I like that we're getting at that. You're not locked in enough. Come on, Bicky. Get with the program. We'll say probably continuing with this theme of light is interesting too, off of last episode. Huh. I don't know. How do blind people do anything? Corky. The River of Light. I get Mushishi vision. Or Mushi vision. Yeah. Huh. Interesting. What are you doing, buddy? Interesting. What happens if I cross into the river? Do I cease? We're really nailing really specific feelings, like coming out of the dark and seeing the light, and your eyes kind of hurt again. And obviously, that being a microcosm of what's happening here. That's another. I love that shot too. It's like an eyelid closing turned. Don't know, buddy. It's not a disease. Do they not? Oh, yeah, they don't know it's a mushi. Interesting. Thank you, Carson. Anyway. I would hate to lose the light in my heart. How does a mushi get in your eye? So did something like crawl in it, or did she just like activate her third eye or something? We'll never know. Oh, here we go. I was wondering, we're definitely taking our time having Ginkgo actually entering the plot here. Ooh! Hang on. I didn't like that. Damn, Mum was right. Two kids in the storage shed now. Yeah, ow. Maybe. Alright, in you go, buddy. Oh, I don't like that. I mean, isn't he already infected though? But I guess when it's your kid, it's a bit different. So does he just show up? But you invaded my home. I caught wind. Spiritually. Interesting. A newborn Mushi. Why do characters with blindfolds look so cool? Okay, how you doing now? Bit better? Well, now what about Sui? Has the... Okay. Eye Darkness Mushi. So now has Sui's gone too far along is what I wanted to say. You have a second eyelid? It's like the sun. He's the exact same. Thank you, Doctor. You've saved me. Yes. Oh. But in the isolation, huh? That's a really cool shot. Very horror, almost. Mm-hmm. Hmm. What is this gonna look like? Go on then. Cool. Yo, the 2000s. This is fucking cool. Yeah, we let that fester for a while, huh? The river. Yo. Okay, did we win? And what about Beaky? Is he okay? Oh. See, I don't like that. I don't like the eye parasite. That's freaking me out. And it was fucking huge. What are you doing? What the fuck? What? It's a bit shaky in the hand there. Is that like the power of the Mushi, like throwing it around? It's life. Interesting. It's almost this forgotten thing. I mean, all's well that ends well, I guess, but don't follow the lights. No, that's nice. Yeah. Well, it's dangerous. Maybe a little bit terrifying, a little bit scary. That is definitely the implication, I feel. He's so chill, dude. For sure. Is that a lead into the ending? Nice. Very, very nice. Now I'm caught in two minds. Because I feel like that episode was significant. Obviously, there are things to say about it. But I also forgot about the pace of the show. Yeah, we could definitely do another one, I feel. So we'll chuck it on, why not? Maybe I'd chuck it on then, come back a bit later and talk about them. Maybe that's the vibe. I feel like the main teaching of this kind of episode, other than the reveal at the end as well, Mushi and all this stuff in the show, right? It isn't all nice all the time. It's like nature. Nature is to be feared as well. It's uncontrollable, it's vast, it's kind of scary sometimes, and it can result in things that we don't expect. And again, we learn from experience, I guess. That's the other probably major takeaway there. This is a very, very pretty ending song too. Tragic. Tender Horns. Yeah, as I said there before, we'll jump straight into another one. I can't imagine I'll have a ton to say about that in the macro. But yeah, anyway. Episode 3 coming right up. Tender Horns. Radio, episode 3 up there ready to go. 23 minutes and 38 seconds, so sync up accordingly with your own copy. Still have that psych version, still using the same subs. Picture in picture in the description below. Let's give this thing a 3, 2, 1. Radio, 3, 2, 1, go. Hang on, did I change my audio? Because this thing likes the default to dub. But yeah, I did. Good. It's already stuck in my head. So what else out of that episode, really? The concept of a second eyelid, something that kind of humanity as a whole has kind of grown out of, but sometimes still kind of happens. I see it almost as like, okay, some people know of Mushi, some people don't know of Mushi, some people can't see them, some people can. Sometimes you get like kind of wokeified to be able to see them, and that's kind of involved in seeing this river and whatnot, and the second eyelid and all that side of it. And yeah, the Mushi itself last episode as well, a major idea there of kind of the light being life. If we snuff out all the light and just put them in the darkness, then it kind of has to eat something, and then it eats your life, it eats you, because you're the closest thing to light that's even around it. It kind of turns from looking outwards to looking inwards. That's kind of my vibe on it. Okay, next. Is it going to be a kid in a shed again? We've kind of had that a couple of times. Kind of a volcano idea. 2 hands. Okay, go on. Covering eyes again. Covering ears? Maybe, instead. The heat and the cold is a fun one initially here too. I was wondering about, because on the poster he seemed very rugged up like this. So I wonder if seasons were going to change and whatnot. That must be it. A village in the distance? Four horns. What the hell are you talking about? Tender Horns. Okay, that now makes sense. I forgot the episode title. I'm recording too. Shirasawa. Shirasawa Yui. Hmm. Hmm. I think it might be a Mushi. Apologize for hitting the mic there too. Ugh. Very surprising. Un. Uno. They feed on sound. But cover your ears. Oh. Little snail guys. Oh, yeah, kinda. Bit of salt? If it's a snail, a bit of salt's probably good. Ew! These two episodes back to back having, like, Mushi like parasites in you, I don't really like that. Kind of tasting the salt's a great touch too. So how did they get here? They came down in search of sound because of the snow. Okay. Yeah, it seems to be that it expanded into fucking horns. Tender horns, some may say. The fits are crazy in this episode. The horny one. Pause. So it's the same looking kid, too. Guess that's just the character designs of the show, kinda, too. Love the way they were depicting the sound here. It's advanced. He's got Mushishi hearing or something. If I was to guess, it's like his hearing has... It's gone away from like the living hearing to the Mushi hearing or something like that. Ooh, entering through his horns is great too. Ah, of course. Yeah, but they're almost kind of like paired with them though. We're gonna need to amputate. That's terrible. So almost like the snow, yeah, because the snow would go away and it would exacerbate everything. I love burning fur. Interesting. Less things for it to bounce off of? Oh yeah, I guess the smoke would help too, maybe. Yeah, like a dog or something. Hear a dog whistle. This kid's a little bit younger too, I would say, than the other ones in the show. The chorus. Very cool. I'm inclined to believe you. So again, because it's eating my silence, I can now hear everything. Like my hearing's increased almost. Oh. That's intriguing. Oh. We found out some crucial information. I'll say that. Where are we? Yeah, about the halfway point. Yeah, she did. Okay, hang on. Why did the noise go away? I see. I don't know. Ah! Not suspicious at all. This kid's adorable. I like his little hat. What are we gonna do for the poor kid? Indeed. We just let him go off and chill. Sure. I guess he can't be reclusive like his mother. Maybe we'll find something out here. I like that. I don't, but sure. That's fine. I'm not solving the case. Sup? You started a fire? I think that's pretty impressive. Damn, we just turned him down. Fire. Oh. Oh. That too. Good vision, buddy. Oh, the audio. The sound here is exceptional. Ew. Correct. Huh. Interesting. Alright, easy. Got it. He always takes a little something. Yeah, I don't want him. Alright. Thanks, Maho. Thanks, Shirasawa. Oh. Okay. Whatever you say, kid. Like that line too. These episodes end really well. Always on like a great little line or something. Yeah, I think if I was to say a general theme across these two episodes, it's that, yeah, Mushi are kind of scary. It's kind of terrifying, the power of everything going on under the surface here. I really liked the lava metaphor, of course. Again, just like, kind of the magma being the blood of almost, and the muscles of the earth that's kind of underneath everything, just, endlessly powerful. This system that's been within everything, like we reflect the land that we live on. Nice and spiritual, of course. I need to get into the nitty gritty of what each of the Mushi there do. Like, okay, it eats away at the silence. So if it eats away at the silence, then I'm always hearing something. But then if I shut out everything or hear everything all at once and understand, okay, yeah, I kind of get it. Because if I don't allow it the silence, then it goes away. Like, that's kind of the vibe there. Like, if I deprive it from its sustenance, then it will cease. If I understand that there's always something, always a sound, if I come to that realization, then at least I think that's the idea. Again, I need to go back. But yeah, good session. 2 episodes there. I might come back a little bit later on and we'll talk about them some more. And I can't imagine I'll have much or as much to say as I have been on the rest of the channel. Again, it's a very chill show. Once you kind of get around a lot of the really admittedly good production aesthetic stuff, it kind of just becomes, oh yeah, it's this case. This is the thing we learnt. these are the characters. Like there's less overall large scale stuff going on there, I guess, than compared to another different show. Like completely different kettle of fish to Apothecary Diaries, which I was doing before. So anyway, I'll return a little bit later on for some analysis. Please look forward to it. And we're back, episodes 2 and 3 in the books. What did I think about them? Broadly pretty positive again. It's a good start to the show. We're really falling into a rhythm in a way that I really appreciate. And again, we're kind of establishing pattern. That's what I really feel like we're doing right now. And I want to separate it into kind of two categories. What was the same between this session and last week's session, and what was different? Let's start with the same. We're still doing episodic stories. We're still generally involving 2, maybe 3 important characters in said stories. Very often the stories are talking about a barrier, two sides of something, whether it be kind of life and death, light and dark, kind of heat and cold, even with the lava, snow kind of thing, blindness versus sight, deafness versus hearing. Like there's very often a delineation there, and very purposefully so. And just in general, I find the stuff on a human level, like the interpersonal relationships there and the drama created, pretty damn compelling between all 3 episodes. They really hold up that end of the bargain of me wanting to see these characters better, wanting to see them improve. There's a problem currently. Ginkgo comes in and fixes it. It feels satisfying when he does so, right? Like, it's pretty formulaic, but I feel like they're nailing it. I mean, I like the people on screen, which is, again, half the battle. Okay, then how about what's different? What's been different this session than the last one? I would say that the Mushi are scary. They're kind of scary in this kind of 2-episode chunk, where in episode 1, I would say that they're just kind of a fact of life rather than being antagonistic. But even then, that word's probably too strong. It's antagonistic in the same way that a rushing river is antagonistic, or, you know, a black bear. You know, they're gonna kill you, but it's kind of just nature doing its thing, you know? It's kind of, I don't know, it would feel, to attach it to like a moral level feels incorrect. Like, it's just, you shouldn't have been there at that time. It's going through its natural process, and you got in the way as a participant in the natural world. And again, these episodes, I'm very happy I did them in tandem, that they're quite similar, one focusing on sight, one focusing on hearing, with, again, Mushi specifically kind of targeted almost at both of these senses, right? Where, again, tangentially related is probably episode 1 with writing and kind of imagination and that kind of thing being involved there, the creation of life. Tangentially, you could kind of squint and say it's related. It's kind of similar. Another one is all 3 episodes thus far have had kids as major characters, really. So we're liking the kids, apparently. I don't know, something about their naivete and lack of knowledge on Mushi and the rest of the world, but also their wide-eyed innocence to the point where they would actually believe it and go along with it and not just tell us to fuck off. I feel like that's kind of significant too. Granted, it does seem like the world does know about Mushi. It's been something that I've kind of kept talking about it, like, oh, does the world know? The world seems to know. They're, you know, when he goes to the snow village and it's like, oh, there's something in my ear. When he says it's a Mushi, they seem thankful. They're not like, what's a Mushi? So, you know. I've also gone back and read a few plot summaries on both of the episodes as well, which I tend to do on the channel sometimes just to make sure that I'm pretty much on the same page. I think I'm getting some of the mechanics wrong with the sound Mushi, the ah. There's the un and the ah, which I think is a Japanese pun there. Somebody will know it, obviously, but yeah, it's kind of like all you need to know there is that knowing and being able to listen to the sound of your own body is enough to make it dissolve into your body. That's kind of the major thing that breaks, you know, that Mushi. And again, as I said, connecting that into the lava that kind of seeps through the earth, again, the sounds that our bodies make when they move around, versus the lava, kind of the geothermic kind of activity under the kind of surface of the Earth, under the Earth's crust. I feel like that's a really apt metaphor. I really liked that too. Looking at Ginkgo specifically, the end of episode 2, which I guess I can just scroll and bring up now, probably gave us the best indicator of something that's happened in his past that has informed his experience and a little bit of personal motivation for him, which was appreciated. If we get little touches like this every now and again of an overarching story, why he does, what motivates him, his backstory, blah, 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 then yeah, that would be nice. It would be really nice. I'd like to know more about the guy. He's very likable and knowledgeable and stuff. He seems pretty cool. Not skipping ahead too much here, but the heavy implication is that he lost his eyes in a similar way to the way that character name lost their eyes. Sui, there you go. He still has one eye that, at least for right now, we think is natural, is an actual eye instead of a glass eye. I like the reveal around why he hides that eye now too. Not that it needed to be a reveal, but I thought it was cool. The other implication is that, okay, why didn't he go through the same process? Like, who told him to stop? Who told him not to go into the river? Was there a mentor figure in his life early on that told him to do that? When we see him kind of wistful and somber over here towards the end, is he potentially thinking about that person, thinking about his experience in the past, obviously mourning his lost eyeball, but also potentially thinking about who told him that information, why they're not here anymore either. That's just a little bit of fan fiction there. I don't know. If this feels like a scene you'll come back to and you'll be like, exactly, gotcha. I know exactly what he's feeling. Anyway, let's say we go back to the start here and come back through. As always, this show is paced pretty deliberately and slow. I talked a lot about the nuts and bolts of that last week. I'm not keen to repeat myself on that kind of stuff. Obviously, I'll be bringing up cool stuff in that regard, but yeah, potentially a little bit short on the analysis this time as well. Oh, another interesting structural thing just while we're here. I noticed that we used this intro in this episode, but not in the next one. So potentially it's just something we use when we need to fill, 20 seconds, which does happen often with anime production. You just have a little something you can chuck somewhere that fills in that time, TV slots and all that kind of stuff. Starting the episode proper, a focus on a blinding, striking light coming through the leaves and the isolation of the shed. Highlighted this a couple of times, but really like this shot here as the light closes on the darkness. Again, close your eyes for me, just like this. You can kind of feel similar, just obviously rotated 90 degrees. Again, in a segment that's so much about blindness and shutting eyelids and shutting your second eyelid, opening your second eyelid, all that kind of stuff. Felt like it was a really apt metaphor, really striking, good stuff. So just some early stuff here setting the scene. Sui is in isolation. Biki goes to see Sui very often. Eyes are bad, we don't really know why. Sui finally confides in Biki now that she thinks it's a Mushi. So this is the thing that keeps making me think that Mushi aren't as well known, or maybe not as respected, I guess, in this world. We have Sui here, very kind of highbrow person, youngest daughter, youngest child of the head family, important person, gets eye problem, so bad that I can't bear to look at light. Pretty important, pretty big deal. None of the doctors know what's up, but kind of Ginkgo comes in and he knows immediately. So, like, I guess none of the doctors knew that it was a Mushi, which is weird, because people know what Mushi are. Kind of. Again, Sui and Biki talk about it in casual conversation. It's a Mushi. Well, why couldn't you tell that to any of the doctors? Actually, from memory, I think we explained it here. They would have thought I was insane or something. Anyway, we'll get there. This is what I mean when the kind of emotional undertone of the kind of episodic story is really strong. Essentially, okay, this child, the youngest of the head family, we're very busy. We can't really deal with that. Let's just give them off to this kind of, offshoot family and put them in the shed and never, visit them and that kind of thing. That's not very familial. That's very kind of, callous and strange and unusual and cruel. Again, we say it here. She was abandoned, right? And again, then Biki comes in, is obviously this kind of found family element to it. They become kind of fast friends. But then on the other side, you have Biki's mother, who clearly cares for her child as well and doesn't want him to go in and contract this disease and, get hurt in that same way. Again, we're kind of contrasting a family that cares almost to a detrimental level with a family that cares not at all. And again, a kind of found family in between it all where they just kind of want to hang out and have fun. Good drama. Very, very compelling. Very sad. I liked it. It is interesting that Bicky's eyesight starts to go once we introduce him to the concept of opening a second eyelid and the river and all that kind of stuff. So, again, are those intrinsically linked? Potentially. Yeah, you would imagine so. Now, I really wanted to talk about this because this is a real feeling. Again, this feels very practical as a segment, but I want you to kind of close your eyes and kind of just put your fingers on them like that. And you can kind of start to see some colors and the pressure and a little bit of light getting through and that kind of thing. For me, in the same way as next segment talks about hearing things in the silence and kind of hearing getting better, and that being a very kind of, like a feeling you can't quite described quite well. This is very similar. Again, when you close your eyes, you don't really see nothing. And that's kind of what we're referring to here. You still have that other eyelid open. Yeah. I thought it was kind of cool. I don't know. This is something I've always thought about. Obviously, we'll talk about it in more depth next episode too, but the audio work here is really stellar. As we're alone in the darkness, kind of Sui giving us the instructions of how to close that eyelid, kind of take on this whisper tone. Again, it's something I shouldn't quite tell you, but I kind of feel compelled to. Again, just a really cool feeling. Yeah, Bicky's really wholesome here too. I like how they play around in the complete darkness. Again, we're both on the same level here in this shed. We can both play together like we're the same. It's including somebody. It's really nice. This is when we start talking about the river, probably the most concrete connection between the first episode and the second. Seeing this river of light made up of Mushi, the life in the darkness, the barrier between life and death. It both giveth and taketh away. Again, there's some cool stuff going on there, obviously. It's also explained as the thing, how I see the ball when I'm bouncing it in the darkness, right? Because I can kind of see it reverberating off this one light that I can see in pure darkness, right? In a way, this light is also kind of temptation. And I only succumb to said temptation when I feel like I have nothing left to lose. Again, it is this barrier between life and death. It's also a metaphor for potentially even self-harm or something akin to that when, I'm isolated, when I'm all alone, when I feel abandoned. Like if I'm left alone, if I don't have this other human connection to other living beings, then I might as well, be with the Mushi or pass to the other side or whatever else there and kind of give up my kind of corporeal form in the process. I like the first visage of Ginkgo here being the person we don't recognize on the other side of the river, telling us not to look into it. This also implies a spiritual connection that Ginkgo has had with this child for quite a long time, right? Where it's like, hey, stop. What we said was 6 months ago, So has he kind of been, periodically checking in somehow and being like, don't you look at that river? And again, maybe the target of his journey, he may be like, oh shit, somebody's going through something similar to the thing that I went through before. Let's try and prevent that. Let's travel over to where they are and try to remedy the situation. And again, travel takes time, just periodically checking in. A really great moment here as Bicky comes out of the shed and then looks up at the kind of sun and his eyes adjust to it. It's like a little taste of that pain that obviously Sui goes through all the time. And again, maybe foreboding of what happens to him later in the episode as well. This is when the mother character comes into it, obviously shows a lot of concern for Bicky here. Fair enough. I feel it's interesting the way they treat it initially. Again, so much focus on traditional medicine, normally good stuff when you don't want to spread an infection or a disease. Burning bandages, using different utensils, cleaning up, all that other kind of stuff. But again, different kettle of fish here with the Mushi. That stuff isn't always going to help in the same way you think it's going to. I think it really demonstrates a show that is doing the character stuff justice. When somebody, an adult character, puts a wedge between something so wholesome in the start of the episode, right? And I completely understand the reasons why. I don't think she's a villain at all. If I'm honest, if my kid was in the same situation, I would probably limit them from exposure as well. Again, just based on the knowledge set that she has, the decision there is completely believable. And really well balanced, well written show in that regard. Obviously, I'm kind of burying the lead as well, because we just had Sui kind of almost communicating with Ginkgo, saying, oh, really? You're coming here for me? Where again, the opening of this eyelid is also similar to the awakening of the power to see the Mushi and the power to communicate with them and all that other kind of stuff. It's almost very Icarus, right? It's flying too close to the sun and getting too familiar with said power will take your eyeballs away. It both gives and takes away in that way, I think. Obviously, there's the parasite involved too there. It isn't just, exactly just the river, but you know what I mean there. If you get close to any river, there's probably a chance of some kind of bacterial parasite infection, depending on where you're swimming. Anyway, point being, I feel like she's awakened to her power somewhat and is able to communicate with Ginkgo, at least a little bit more based on her connection to the Mushi based on what has happened. And then, yeah, the thing happens. He starts to get the eye pain. They become sensitive to light. He wants to shut his eyes all the time. Now, again, I feel like this is almost, what's the word? It's a stupid word, stupid internet word for it. Yeah, information hazard. So as soon as you know about this, then you become susceptible to it happening. Is that anything? It's very similar in Monogatari. If you are aware of these kind of things, you're more susceptible to aberration-y kind of things happening. At least, again, it's been a long time. That's the way I understand it happening anyway. The closer you are to that side of things, the more likely it is for these things to occur. Again, probably a similar thing happening here. After you learn about such a thing, it happening to you. Morning breaks, striking sun over the top. Focus again. Huge amount of pain. Mum comes and checks on in. Obviously, worst fears have been kind of confirmed. Yeah, again, just this real kind of like, what's the word? Forebodingness. to the scene, right? We know what's happening, and then the mum's happening upon it. It's almost like zombie infection type stuff. A constant motif I'm seeing through here as well is the presence of these dolls. I'm yet to see a concrete connection, really. A doll normally means somebody puppeted. Potentially you could, say a parasite, something. That's kind of what we find in the eye. That could be a connection, but other than that, I don't really see it. Maybe the glass eye could be a connection to a doll. Again, I'm not seeing it at the moment. I'm not going to squint. Forced to play with dolls in my own self-isolation. Never forced to make a connection with any real living people, living things again. That's probably something. Again, playing with the doll and then getting kind of shut out from Bicky, kind of reaching out in the darkness, which is really sad now that I think about it. Like you heard the door open, you think Bicky must be here, and it's just some Bickies for dinner. Instead, it's left unsaid at the moment, but this is obviously the moment that Sui also looks down at the river and goes against Ginkgo's advice and loses her eyes in that process too, in her own self-isolation, moving more towards that side of things, which I think is only natural. Now, where are we here? Because, 12 and a half minutes in, this is Ginkgo's first line in his first real scene in the episode where he's actually physically present. Again, we're still establishing what the show's doing, but I thought that was a break from what I expected anyway. Again, he's the main character, he's on the poster for a reason, leaving us alone with two other separate characters and him coming in after the fact, rather than learning along with when we're learning is an interesting touch, right? It's almost like we want to establish the facts of the case before he comes in and just knows everything and can tell you the solution. And again, specifically for this one, and compared to next episode where he doesn't instantly know the solution, there's a reason why he does know the solution in this one. Like, it's happened to him before, and that is a seemingly crucial part of his character. So, good writing. He shouldn't be here because he would solve it like that, He is quite funny how he just happens in, walks in, the door's unlocked, and he just goes about his business. No commission, no hey, how's it going? Just do your thing, buddy. Now, I really like this dream sequence too. It's framed as a nightmare from Bicky, but it's Sui apologizing. It's almost like there's a connection between those two based on their similar ailment, right? That they can almost connect in a dream and communicate. This apology of like, sorry this happened to you, sorry I infected you, but also sorry I've already gone too far into the water of the river, something irreversible has happened. I do like the tears pouring out as well, which will eventually become the river, which kind of highlights the climax of this episode. We have a name here, of course. We have Monoko Yami Mushi. Not a mouthful at all. Eye Darkness Mushi. He's going to tell us the exposition now about what it is. So very quickly we get a lot of information. It feeds off of the darkness and multiplies in the darkness within your own eye, right? So you spent too much time with Sui in the dark, you got infected with said Mushi, it started to have like parasite-like effects where like now it's making you do things that, it doesn't like. It doesn't like light, it multiplies in darkness, it's going to make it painful for you to be in the light. Fair enough, fair enough. So again, you spend too much time in the darkness, that's why that happened. It's almost like at every level we are infected by these things. If we let one thing happen too much and don't maintain balance, then bad things will occur because one part of the Mushi kind of ecosystem will get all out of whack. I also like the discussion of a life cycle here. Yours was a newborn, hers seems to be adult by the time we grab it out and kind of wrangle it. Again, it's what's left unsaid. It's that none of this stuff is really concrete, is again something I'm really vibing with. It just feels really cool and natural. Whatever happens just feels as what should happen, I guess. As opposed to it being told to me, it just feels correct, Now that I'm thinking about it as well, we have, a pretty obvious thing going on with the two eyes here with Ginkgo. One of these is a fake eye, one of these is glass, one of these is empty, one of these can see the river of darkness, or the river of light, excuse me. It is representative of him also being a Mushishi, which is the barrier between the Mushi and the humans, that can kind of see both sides and help them come together and, the correct thing happen. A balance, so to say, if I keep using my Monogatari lingo. Yeah, again, it's obvious stuff. One eye, one side, one eye, the other side. It's, we have a similar thing going on in Witcher from memory. Like Geralt has two eyes that are kind of one color. Anyway, somebody else has fucking heterochromia type thing going on, and it's representative of this connection between the two sides, I guess. Now, again, the concrete mechanics of what's going on here still kind of elude me. I don't know why she opens her eyes and a river comes out. I guess she was in the river. Maybe a bunch of river water got in between the eyelids or whatnot. It's evocative, and that's more the point. That's what really matters here. It's, memorable, and it makes for a great scene, rather than, the lore. Who cares about the lore? I was musing on this during the reaction itself as well, but closing eyes and kind of existing in the darkness, right? It's almost like the only sustenance around as well. Again, as much as this Mushi doesn't like light, light is also life, kinda. Like, I don't know, it feels like, okay, I don't have anything to feed on it, like, at all. Like, I'm just kind of here in the darkness doing my thing. I'm gonna eat the fucking eyeball. I'm going to turn inwards and start eating instead. Like, again, the river is also the light. So if I'm turning away from the light that's in the river, and then, okay, now I'm eating eyeball. Am I making any sense there? It's all kind of jumbled, but that makes sense to me. Now, this just made me think 2000s. We have a very, you would say, dated CG technique on the liquid here. For me, more than anything else, it makes me feel nostalgic. I like it. I'm trying to think what it reminds me of. Shit. I don't know why my brain's going here, but something in like Helsing, maybe? Anyway, something like that. Yeah, again, just a very 2000s-y effect overall. Maybe Fully Cooley? Did Fully Cooley do something like this? Anyway, clearly the climax of the episode, the animation, kind of, big pop-off scene, you would say. Also really like the brutality of this kill here. Once again, giving Witcher a little bit. Or like Steve Irwin, if you wanted to say that as well. I don't know, he's just kind of really in touch with nature in a cool way. It feels like he's done this a million times, it feels very expert. Now, Ginkgo, another character trait here, is selfless. He gives up this glass eye, which he presumably needs, or would at least like, to give this girl her sight back, even though, again, she went directly against what I kind of, told her, my commands. I also like the sense of Mushi give and take away, right? We're going to put some Mushi, a different kind of Mushi, in this glass eye, and it's going to grant the sight back. Like, again, one Mushi take, one Mushi give. It's giving, like, life cycle and the energy kind of spin of all kind of the universe, right? Energy is never destroyed, or whatever the fucking thing is. Yeah, again, there's always something that can heal you in the same way that something can ail you in nature, I guess. Yeah, we get a little bit more like narration here, which I really like. Similar to the intro, which was kind of used in this episode, where we talk about, again, every human having the capacity to do this, but it's lucky that, Some never use it. Some never awaken to said ability, all that other kind of stuff. Because again, many more people would stare at the river too long and lose their sight. So again, that they experience one kind of vision, which is the vision that we all have, right? And they say, that's enough, I'm good, I see the light, I'm sweet. As opposed to experiencing true darkness and seeing the light within that, which is another different thing. But again, all the more dangerous, all the more Mushi-coded, you probably need some kind of expert dude involved. Yeah, I think that's my 2 cents on it. I also like this as well, just for a split second when, Ginkgo put that glass eye in, we have Biki here seeing that river. Just for a moment again. So now I can finally understand what you were talking about before. There's almost like this singing siren element to it too. It's so beautiful that I want to stare at it forever. Again, humans don't inherently have very good self-control, so again, it's nice that not all humans have this ability to see it, or at least haven't awoken to it, because again, it would be tempting. And again, all the more tempting when I'm alone in the dark, as opposed to having a little friend. So it's nice that we're still buds. We end the episode here on this musing last line. I wonder if that Mushishi lost his real eye in the same way that Sui lost both of hers. Where again, I like how he's mirrored in the water too. It's only natural that he would be. Again, because normally the hair part is on the other side. Yeah, again, it's heavily implied that he did. Right? It's heavily implied that why else would Ginkgo come here and be so passionate about it and want to fix things here if it hadn't happened to him before? Just in general, the somber tone of his movements, the movement towards it's not a cigarette, but whatever he's smoking, a moment of meditation, sadness, a lot of stuff in the posing, like I feel defeated after that. It feels really like he's remembering something quite impactful, something where he went too far one way and got something irreversible that happened to him that he now needs to live with forever, right? Always whenever in these moments, meditating, thinking, wanting to protect others from the river, all sorts of stuff. Again, like it feels really significant and something we should really remember going forward. And of course, lets the episode end in a somber, understated, contemplative, meditative way. I feel like the ending of that kind of like lead-on question, those last kind of silent scenes into the ED is masterful. It's very, very good. Made me feel quite emotional in the reaction. Next episode now, first thing focusing on that volcano, which will come back at the very end, and immediately building a contrast between the heat and the cold. A few, again, images or pieces of imagery that will come back later in the episode as well. The mother covering the ears, which becomes all very important. Also an immediate cut there to a lack of sound after the sound of the bubbling volcano. Again, we've seen the episode, very important concepts to get across early. Very quickly in this intro as well, we get introduced to Maho, who will be the target character here, and his little horns, which he says that grew when he covered his ears. This is immediately followed by the general advice in this particular village on a snowy night when all kind of sound is gone, I guess. Now, my understanding is that the Mushi, at least the side that is the most prevalent here, right, as opposed to the un to the a, they feed on sound, and then the other side feeds on silence. But I don't get why when it's silent, these dudes would come to you. Is it because you're inherently making noise even if you don't think you are? So again, the rest of everything else is so silent. Again, the snow is kind of dampening the noise there. We have, they come to us because we're living things and we're going to be making noise internally even if we don't feel like it. But then why would talking be a deterrent? Again, potentially need to rewatch the episode here to find out. Again, in contrast to last episode, Ginkgo appearing almost immediately and being kind of contracted. He was contacted to be here. He is not just happening upon it. We specifically got a Mushishi because we know that we have a Mushi problem. It's a weird thing to highlight. I really like the science of this one here. So again, we have people in the village being infected with a ear disease come these quiet snowy nights. It's got the doctors stumped. Let's have a look. I like that he gets at his little fucking ear camera thing and has a look inside and sees a telltale sign of this particular Mushi being involved, this green fluorescent mucus. I don't know, it felt very procedural in a way that I really liked. It was interesting. The un is eating the sound. So, okay, again, it becomes sound deprived, so it's going to go to your ear, which is always going to attract sound. I guess that makes sense. Now, again, these two episodes really kind of connected the Mushi idea to bugs in a more concrete way, which again I thought was going to be more of the vibe of, the show that roughly translates to Bugmaster, with a parasite and kind of like a weird infestation-y snail kind of thing. Here, I feel like we're getting closer to that promise. Again, even if it was a promise, Again, it's what I expected from the show going in. The remedy here that we use is also quite quaint. It seems to be salted hot water just poured into the ear and then kind of out. Again, if it's like a snail-like thing, then obviously it's not going to like salt. It's going to make it want to leave and move, which again is all we really need. It's kind of an infested part of the ear that looks like the snail shell, which I think is some cool lore stuff too. So yeah, it's going to live in that part of the ear and eat incoming sound, because it is in search of sound, it feeds on sound, whereby the R on the other side feeds on silence. Gotcha. Again, I love how quaint the initial case is. Yeah, just pour some salt water in it, it'll be fine. Again, it feels like something I would do, right? If I have something wrong with me. Probably hot salt water is a good idea. This kid has horns. Like, that's so much more serious, and again, like, we don't want to show him he's like in isolation, the rest of the village doesn't really even know about it. Like, it's such a more interesting case, and I love that we pivoted this direction after something pretty pedestrian. We can see here that the horns themselves are absorbing all of the sounds of the various mushi, right? Again, this R, it eats the silence, so I'm going to be perpetually hearing the sounds of the mushi everywhere that are making a little hum, but there's so many of them it turns into a loud roar. And it's incessant, I can hardly sleep, even though again I can't hear through my ears, normal human speech and that kind of stuff. I'm taking in information, kind of oral information, constantly. Once again, there's always a push and pull in this show that I really like. Again, a kind of coexistence theme and an understanding theme and a kind of cycle theme to a lot of things moving through here, which I really like. In this example here, it's the un and the R. They coexist because the un, which are more prevalent, eat all the sound, right? So what happens when you eat all the sound? Silence exists. So then they eat all the silence, and then it's like nothing. Does that make any sense? Like, of course these two would be together. They're multifaceted, they're multi-purposed. It feels like something we would see in nature, potentially, insects and that kind of thing, bugs. They do this kind of thing all the time. It reminds me of whales in the ocean and those kind of little bottom feeder guys that just chill off the whales and kind of eat their, remnants and leftovers and stuff. They coexist because, it's kind of mutually beneficial. Isn't that like a cleaning thing? They like clean the whales? Again, I'm not an expert, obviously, but yeah, it's kind of like that. So, okay, the question here becomes, why is the R specifically here like parasitic? Why does it eventually kill its host? Which I feel like is the part that I wasn't really grasping before, but is now making a little bit more sense. If the weakness is the sound within the own body, right, then it wants to eliminate that sound, which just happens from the person living. So it infects you, right? Gives you these horns, which, I mean, I haven't even talked about the horns as a metaphor, but anyway. It gives you these horns, and it's like, hey, I need to shut this fucking racket down, because I like the silence. So I'm going to start to kill you. And again, that's when we weaken the host and whatnot, to try to slow down those natural noises of just moving around and operating correctly. Again, it doesn't know that it's doing it, it just wants the silence again. But we can never truly be silent. So, yeah, it fights back. I guess that makes sense. And I guess that's what we do when we do this later on and, make a little bit more sound. We're specifically focusing in that internal sound to the point where it kills the parasite and makes it dissolve. Like, that makes sense, I guess. Like, okay, now that I know what your weakness is, I can ramp it up and kill you. Okay, kill the parasite infecting me. Another really cool touch, which doesn't get much explanation, though I don't think it needs it, is this cool, like, smoke tent we build up, which, like, helps us to have an actual conversation. Again, normally your ears wouldn't work. They've been, I don't want the sound, I want the silence, so shut the ears down, they're bad. In this particular kind of place, in the tent, for some reason the ears now work. Oh no, I don't need it to be explained. It just kind of makes sense on a vibes level. And this kid's pretty affable for, having a pretty bad disease that's probably going to kill him. He's like, the Mushi have been fucking loud since you've been here. And he's like, sorry, my bad. Yeah, again, he's been hearing the Mushi. That's kind of the vibe here. Much like the second eyelid, there is also a spectrum of loud noises that normally, us humans and animals can't hear. There is all the way back to episode 1. If we're here and like everything else is here and the Mushi are here, we're so far removed to be able to see them, like, of course there's this whole other world on the other side. That's, again, like the concept of the show. Just a few like really strong concepts in this show so far. Of course, the aforementioned finger heart stuff, which I keep bringing up. The river, I feel like that's really astute. I love this one. If, even though Mushi are quiet and minute and small and stuff, there are so many of them, right? They make up, living things and whatnot. They're everywhere, even if we can't see them. So if I eventually start to hear them, and they're only murmuring a little bit, but there's so many of them, they build a chorus to the point where it's like a concert, where it's, incessant racket that I need to stop. I love that concept. I love the concept of nature and living things in chorus with each other. I feel like that's just cool, as well as obviously the lava at the end, but I've already gone through that one a number of times. Once again, I feel like I'm going to be a broken record on this with the show. There is always an underlying tragedy here, which I feel like the show always executes in a great way. I always saw my mother, when she was sick and dying, covering her ears, so I just copied suit. I just covered up my ears too, not really understanding why, not knowing that this was also involving me in the infection. Again, much like Bicky in the previous episode. I didn't really know why, but because I was doing this thing which was kind of empathetic, I ended up getting involved too. A central conceit of these stories as well is often a breakdown in communication, a breakdown in understanding of why something is happening. Again, all the way back to episode 1, we obviously had the grandmother there that couldn't communicate her plight. Like, it got to a point where she didn't even remember why she was the way that she was, and that split there. Similarly here, we have Mum, who covered the ears, and Maho here that can't quite remember what she had to say at that time for that reason. Again, even though that's quite important, if I could only remember what she said back then, I could instantly solve this problem. There's a tragedy in the breakdown of communication. It's a pretty common theme here, and again, Ginkgo coming through to repair that. He's just really nice. It's very calming and very reassuring that there's always a happy ending there too, I guess. As Maho goes to sleep, we go to Shiwasawa, who tells us a little bit more about her daughter and her plight there. Again, she hid it often from Maho, but she was in pretty constant pain, never able to go to sleep fully, constantly hearing noise, constantly covering her ears. She just wanted a place that had some peace and quiet. And she eventually got there in death. But here's the lead-on question. So she suffered until the end? No, she didn't. One day, suddenly the sounds went away. And again, we keep that in the back pocket for later. Just know that at some point in time, she stopped hearing the incessant sound that the R kind of attracted. I like little Maho here. I think he's pretty cute. I like how he's all rugged up in the snow. I like how he has a little hat on hiding the horns, not wanting to kind of alert anybody or, worry them. He's just cute. I don't know, I like kids. And yeah, off he goes. He was getting a little stir-crazy inside. He kept thinking about the last days of his mother, how she was trapped inside as well. I don't know. There's a poetry to wanting to go outside at this time, even if it's by his lonesome, to, at least be somewhere else and not follow the exact same kind of path that my mum did towards her death. However, then the snow starts to fall pretty heavily, he becomes missing, it becomes a quest for Ginkgo to solve, I guess. Now, the question that's still kind of bugging me, and again, I'm going to rewatch and find out, why did all of her hearing go away? It doesn't seem like all of Maho's hearing goes away here at the end, so again, was she too far gone? Did we get to Maho in time that his hearing could still be recovered? It seems like in destroying the, in the mother's case, in destroying the R, she also lost the hearing. Anyway, Ginkgo knows, and that's all that really matters, I guess. This kid's pretty, switched on. He's able to create a fire and keep himself warm in the snow, out in the fucking sticks, and find like a little cave. It's pretty, Bear Grylls out here, man. Holy shit. Love this moment here in the middle of Maho talking. We kind of hear the audio then kind of fade out, as well as the crackling of the fire fade out as well. We look up and realize the whole cave has been infested with Un, as well as a singular A, who normally come in, you know, those kind of groups. Again, it's a great oh shit moment if you've, again, been paying attention to, you know, the mechanics of the Mushi in this episode. Love the idea of the kind of Un and A being clockwise and counterclockwise respectively. Again, a yin and a yang. Again, a push and a pull. Again, always this kind of theme coming through in the show. So here specifically, Ginkgo lets himself be infected with the A to test his hypothesis, at which point the audience is also taken along for the ride in the audio department, right? We're kind of hearing what he's hearing, right? And this is when it's like, hey, Maho, put your hands on my ears the same way that your mother did to you. At this point, we hear a really distinct pop early before the explosion happens out of the ears here. And again, it's really great audio. It's very hard to describe, though. Again, you guys watch the episode, you know what I'm talking about, but it's kind of muted, and you can kind of hear that pop, and then your kind of hearing just starts to come back a little bit, which is really fun. So again, Ginkgo here is specifically focusing on the internal sounds happening here in the hands. Potentially it's of the hands of another, which is the thing that's doing it, which is the reason... No, but the mum did that to herself, I thought. Anyway, essentially we make the discovery that she wasn't trying to keep out noise at the end there, right? She was trying to focus her hearing on the noise that she could hear. Even when you cover both ears, right? Even when you don't think you can hear anything, there's still something there, right? Which is you. Similar to, again, previous episode. Even when you think you're looking at darkness, it's not true darkness. There's still a little bit of light there. What? Okay, that doesn't make any sense then. Did she keep the R until the end then? Don't really understand. Why didn't hers dissolve? Did she not have horns? No, she had horns until the end. I don't... Yeah, anyway. Confusing. Because I thought she figured out how to solve it, but then she was too weak to do anything about it and knew that she was about to die regardless. Anyway, this is when we explain the volcano lava metaphor. I won't torture you by going through it again. I do like the kind of build-up of pressure, bubbling sound here as we cover the ears and talk about the lava, kind of culminating with that line, you have the lava flowing within you, before again, he finally explodes the Mushi. Very cool. Again, there's like a build-up of pressure to a pop. Again, really fun audio design. Apparently the red-hot lava is flowing within him. Very, very cool. Ginkgo also takes a little something as his fee, as he does like to do. I don't know what he's going to do with the horns, but he seems to like it. I think that this is an interesting line coming from Ginkgo at the very end here as well. Hey, the world's pretty quiet now, right? You're used to hearing all that sound, all the sounds of the Mushi and whatnot, and now you've lost that ability. You know, it may feel comfortable for now, right? Much like your mother, you may have sought after that peace and quiet, but soon you'll want to hear those sounds again. Soon you'll want to be able to turn that on and off, potentially again. I've gone through a similar thing. Blah, 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 blah. That's how I got interested in Mushi. Sure, let's project that forward, why not? And again, only really the quietude affecting you in the winter, I guess, as well. And yeah, like, end of the episode. I don't know, he says he's going to continue to listen to the same sounds that Mum described. I was listening to it the whole time, the same sound that Mum was listening to. It's pretty enough to give you the chills. Again, as I spoke about in the ED of the reaction, talking to this kind of scary nature of the Mushi. Again, this kind of natural thing. They're not a good thing all the time, they're just nature. Nature's sometimes good for you, nature's bad for you. You need somebody to come in and do their little bit, which is Ginkgo. And with that, we'll leave it there. Yeah, bit of a shorter one, of course, but I feel like the episode's called for it. They were pretty simple in the end, really. Again, I keep trying to look for the minute details where, again, I just don't feel like that's this kind of show. I feel like it's more vibes. I'm feeling the vibes of it all. I feel enriched and very calm. Again, very different to what I'm watching on the channel elsewhere. Again, we're going to try to keep up the pace. Again, hopefully Takopi doesn't run long again next week, which kind of stuffed me. But anyway, I'll see you then. Very good session. 2 good episodes. Calming, which is, again, probably a word I'm going to use a lot with the show. Patreon if you want to be that 1 week ahead. Like the video, subscribe, all that other kind of stuff. And I'll catch you next time. Goodbye. See you later. Ciao.